It's all about Marcus. It's all about Marcus Smart and his return to Boston. Sucks that he wasn't able to play, but I do love that, it's sometimes it's different depending on what you're, as you're recouping from injuries. His is the fingers, a little bit different, but he was with the team, came, and there's a lot of people that paid a lot of money at the beginning of the season. They circled this game and said that they, wanted to come to this game because they wanted to show their appreciation for Marcus Smart, and you felt it in the building. So it was almost kind of nice with him not playing that it made it really easy to just be a night of appreciating Marcus Smart. And earlier on Twitter, we just put out, a thread of give us your favorite Marcus Smart moments. And it was really cool to see that every time I took out my phone or was on my computer and refreshed, there were more and more memories that just kept coming out. But Greg, was there anything today that stood out to you or any particular memory of Marcus that you wanted to touch on?
I think the one play that stands out more than anything is the block on Powell in the bubble.
I think that's the most underappreciated thing, Marcus. Like, I feel like that gets forgotten a lot, by myself included. And then I'm like, holy shit, that was an amazing play for that to happen. But because it's the bubble, I think sometimes it gets a little bit forgotten in his list of achievements with the Celtics.
Yeah, and the thing I really like about it, and I can't recall, I'm pretty sure it was the game right before that where the same play happened and Marcus got beat in transition, right? And Powell scored on him in the game before that. And then in the very next game, same situation happens and Marcus makes the adjustment. He flips his hips a little bit earlier and times the block on Powell at the rim. So, for me, I think that's the play that stands out. This GIF right here that's playing on the screen right now, the Marcus kip up. I kind of forgot about the Marcus kip up until I saw this come through.
Yeah.
That was like, especially early Marcus when he had like all of his athleticism before he took 300 charges in his career. The kip up was always a really good time. And I remember just like getting excited whenever Marcus would go to that. How about you?
So I think it was, for me, there's the two moments that really stick out. One that I would love is that Houston game where he gets the double offensive call against James Harden, because number one of those was very legit. The other one was a little bit of Marcus being Marcus. And so I thought it was just a perfect representation of Marcus Smart in like a 20-second time frame. And then the energy from the crowd that was kind of pumped in. And that was the part of Marcus that you could never factor into when you're like, well, here's his analytics. Here's, this and that about his vorps and smorps and all that stuff. But that was so real in that moment, feeling that energy, the tide turning. Very few athletes can turn the tide the way a guy like Marcus Smart can. I'm sure other fan bases will have their guy that can do that, but it's very unique to have that guy, especially when he's not a Jason Tatum knocking down 7 threes in a row, or he's not, Jaylen Brown dunking on you. And it's a guy taking a charge, diving for a loose ball. Like, that's a very unique individual. And that moment was so representative of Marcus Smart. And then I think the other moment for me is the end of game 1 against Brooklyn, when he doesn't take the shot that everybody in the world thinks he's taken that shot, because he has taken that shot so much in the past. And, of course, that was the lead up to the Celtics getting as close as they did with Marcus to the championship, taking the Warriors to game 6 in the finals. But that was the first step where it was like, oh, this is different. That was incredible maturity for him to be able to pass up that shot, make the right play, and ultimately end up at Jason Tatum at the rim for the layup. So that one felt almost like self-rewarding, like going through all the growing pains with Marcus Smart to get to this point where we have the best team that we've ever had with him here. And he could have taken the hero shot that, there's a part of him that he wanted to take and be the guy to make it. And instead he just made the right play and ultimately ended up in a Celtics win. So I think those for me are the two moments with Marcus that really stand out. And of course there's a bunch of other ones that we could list, but
one that stands out to me now that we're just kind of thinking it through. We've talked about this on the pod before, but very early on in Marcus's career, that series against the Hawks when Paul Millsap was just cooking us, and Brad decides, you know what? And this was kind of like early on Big Ball 1, where Brad hadn't really put Marcus on a lot of power forwards before.
He was just kind of out of ideas in this one.
Yeah, he was like, Paul Millsap is killing us. Marcus, go cover him. And like one of my favorite things about like that era of the Celtics when we were still like kind of on the come up, Every once in a while, I'm like my Facebook memories, I'll see something like come across my Facebook memories, some like status I had posted. And there's always a few that like make me chuckle about how much I loved early Marcus Smart when, we didn't have a great team by any means, but Brad Stevens was just like understanding he had this generational defensive player, and he started trying some shit with Marcus, guarding Millsap. He could never really
Guarding
guard
Porzingis.
Guarded Porzingis, like all these
That was
things.
that was one of my favorite things. I think that might have been after Millsap. Well, then Brad kind of realized,
Definitely.
all right, maybe we can try this.
Yeah.
And like when he started guarding, and this is when Porzingis was back in New York. So this is like Porzingis on the rise, where people were like, this is the new wave. Like this guy is, gonna be one of the 5 to 10 best guys in the NBA. Like that was the thinking of where Porzingis was going. And I remember we put Marcus Smart on him, and it just felt like it was like, oh hey, yeah, this. Back when we weren't Porzingis fans, and we had Marcus Smart to shut him down, like that was incredible.
How did you feel watching the tribute video tonight? Did you cry?
I didn't cry. I definitely got a little you could feel it in the chest, right? I didn't cry, but it was this was, I don't always like tune in like a half hour in advance and watch a lot of the pregame. This was a day where I did, where basically like the TV, I kind of commandeered it for about an hour before the game or so, and just wanted to make sure I could catch every little bit of Marcus's pregame press conference and any of the highlights for it. Like I said, it's just a really unique relationship for a role player to really kind of connect with the city in the way that Marcus did. And he's just the perfect type of guy that people, that the fans of Boston teams, whether it's the fans of a lot of crossover here, obviously Red Sox, Patriots, whatever, they love that glue guy that goes the extra mile to make these effort plays, even though by the end of Marcus Smart we can kind of tell which ones were effort and which ones were a little bit for show. But he still was that dude. And like I said, to one of my favorite moments, the guy just knew he had a feel for the moment, which is why it made it so hard to get frustrated with him in the moments that he didn't quite, he probably overstepped a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that why they had to move on. But, to have that connection, it was special to see it all throughout the game. And like, probably what actually got to me more than the tribute video was just hearing the fans, like when the game started to get over with about 4 or 5 minutes left with the "thank you, Marcus." Like I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's an awesome moment right there.
Yeah, man, watching the game, it like really kind of killed me that Marcus isn't on the Celtics anymore. Like I'm very happy to have Porzingis. I'm very happy to have Holiday. But if the initial Brogdon trade goes down, and Holiday's still on the table, I don't know what that trade looks like. Would we have made that trade?
It's probably the same thing. It's probably Marcus and Rob.
But like, do we? I don't know that we make that trade. I'm not sure.
I don't know that we do either.
Keeping Marcus and Rob, like, then you have. I mean, dude, that lineup would have been insane. Then you have 7 guys. With Rob, obviously injuries are a concern with Rob, as you see he's out this year. But it probably would have been the perfect role for Rob as well, playing behind Horford and Porzingis, just coming in for 15 to 20 minutes a game. He'd be in the Luke Cornett role. Like that would be Rob.
Imagine that, right?
That's insane. And then maybe we still do see this Derek White rise. You never know. And Drew's great. I think he's definitely an upgrade over Marcus, but he's not like so much of an upgrade that the heartstrings can't argue with it.
I mean, the biggest difference for the way this team is set up between having Drew and Marcus, like in the scenarios that we're discussing, is I think Drew is more okay with taking a back seat than Marcus is, right?
Definitely.
So I think that's where,
but like, would Marcus have adjusted with Porzingis on the team?
I mean, possibly, right? I mean, it's possible, but I think part of that is also like Drew's coming in as a new guy. Marcus is the guy, right? He's been here for 10 years, and that's just a difference. Like you can translate that to any part of your life, right? When you go into a new friend group, you go into a new job. If you've been there for 10 years, you're like, hey, buddy, this is how we run shit here. Like you adapt to us. Is when you're the new guy, you're usually like, all right, tell me what's the lay of the land? Like, how are we doing this? You know, so that's just a completely different mentality. And I think Scal talked about this in the pregame a little bit, and it's been talked about other places too. The shift of Marcus being the face and leader of this team did have to shift. Like, I think it had to be, the Jays had to be thrust into that position. Like, hey guys, there's no more safety net here. Like, we've known for a couple of years you guys are the best players. Now everyone's looking at you. There's no more big brother Marcus. Yeah, you still have Al. Like Al's there in the background, but Al's not going to be the guy in front of the media, like to a similar level, which Marcus was compared to, the Jays being interviewed and being on podcasts and, being talked about. And so I think that was something that was just necessary. It's unfortunate, but I think that was a necessity for the team. If we're going to get to the next level, it has to go through the Jays. It can't have somebody that's, intermediating that process.
Yeah, I agree. I just these are the things I was thinking about during the game, man, because I really would have liked to see the Celtics have won a title with Marcus, and like
I know
if that Brogdon trade goes down, I don't necessarily think that the Drew trade happens. So I just would have I would like to spend a night in my dreams getting a realistic understanding of what that team would have looked like.
It's fascinating to think about, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Like Rob is your seventh guy, and you can't. I mean, injuries were always going to be concerned. You can't predict that what happened to him in Portland would automatically have happened to him this year in Boston, right?
Right.
So, just thinking about what that team could have been, I mean, it's an interesting debate. Like, is this top 6 better than what you could have had with this top 7? If the Mountain, because then you still have Hauser, Pritchard, Cornette, like they're still there.
Yeah,
it's not like
I think that the top 7 beats the top 6. To be honest with you, like with a healthy Rob coming off the bench, that's freaking dynamite.
So, but that's the biggest swing piece of that whole discussion, right? Because if you go 6-on-6 and you remove Rob because he's always injured, it's a clear cut who wins that 6, right? So it's really tough, but it's an interesting thing to think about. One of these little wrinkles that we'll just never know. It will always be something that we come back to and debate. And I think as we get further away from the season, we'll see how how it finishes out and how next year goes. But if the Celtics don't win a championship in the next 2 years with this group of 6, and it starts to this guy gets sent this place and someone else is, Missoula's off at another team, whatever, that's going to be a question that people come back to 3 years from now. Like, hey man, especially if Rob comes back healthy in another season or two, it's going to be a question that somebody comes back to, because the Grizzlies, just to the point of Marcus Smart being a winner, right? 9 years in Boston, 9 years in the playoffs, 5 years in the conference finals. That was kind of blows my mind. He was here for 9 years and 5 times played in the conference finals. Like, that's pretty impressive. And you saw it was only for 3 weeks to a month, but you did see what the Grizzlies started to look like when they had Marcus with Ja, with Bane, with
He's
Jackson.
Electric, man. He's magical.
And I mean, the Grizzlies look like they were like, oh shit, like do not, like if you're the top of the West, that is a nightmare scenario getting them in a 6, 7, 8 seed. Like that's not a 6, 7, 8 seed if they're fully healthy for a full season.
Yeah, I think their biggest concern moving forward is going to be size. Ja, Bane, and Marcus is a very small backcourt. That's very small.
Like size and shooting will be the 2 things that they need to address. Yeah. So we'll see. But I still think the Grizzlies will, for them, I think they're going to hold on to a lot of their pieces, and I think they'll be an interesting team to watch next year. Hopefully next year when Marcus comes back to the Garden, he'll actually get to play, because I do still want to see Marcus on the court. But it was nice to have this moment in time where it was just a full-on appreciation. There's we don't need to have a Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart dust up, even though I know Jaylen didn't play tonight. We didn't need that tonight while we celebrate Marcus. But once again, thank you, Marcus. We'll see you next year. All right, with that, let's go here and let's just hit a couple NBA news and notes here just to round out the show. So some of the biggest news that happened in the last couple of days, and some more breaking news on top of that, is of course the Joel Embiid injury news and what's going to happen in Philadelphia. Right before we came on, here was the latest news from Woj. 76ers star Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP, will undergo a procedure this week to repair a left meniscus injury, a team official tells ESPN. A recovery timeline is expected after procedure, but expectation is that he will miss an extended period of time. He then retweeted that with a quote, said the door isn't closed on an Embiid return this season, sources tell ESPN, but there will be a clearer idea on a timeline once the procedure is complete this week. Greg, to me, this 1000% screams Kevin Garnett 2008, 2009. What's the timeline? I don't know. Maybe he's coming back. We'll just kind of leave it lingering and see,
Fucking
kind of
lingerer, man.
lingerer, man. Just kind of let it hanging out. But this is major news, right? If Embiid's gone for the season, see you later, Sixers. Like it just doesn't.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't. I mean,
not
obviously, it
even a
doesn't
question.
matter what they do, but I don't know. I mean, it sucks because I really want to have a season where Embiid is just healthy all the way through, like through the postseason, win or lose. Like just have a healthy Joel Embiid, and I always prefer this league you got to go through everybody at their peak. That just makes everything feel better, right? And it's what we want to watch as fans. So even as a Celtics fan, this news sucks, but it does really change the landscape of the East.
Yeah, and this is the same thing that we were just talking about with Rob. Obviously, different caliber of players, but this is the Embiid experience. You know what you're signing up for. The guy can't stay healthy. And I don't think this – I wonder what the discourse is going to be, when it's all said and done regarding Embiid's career. Because at the end of the day, you got to deliver, and he hasn't delivered in the playoffs, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And maybe that's an organizational issue as well, their inability to keep him healthy. And also the idea of hiring Nick Nurse, who kind of runs his players into the ground. Maybe that wasn't the best coach to hire, even though he's doing a really good job with the Sixers. You got to consider that factor too, with Embiid. But this stinks for Sixers fans. Not going to lie, I was a little bit more concerned about the Sixers than I think a lot of Celtics fans were. I thought that they matched up really well with the Celtics, and if we met them in the postseason, I thought it would have been a real issue. I don't even know if they're going to make the postseason at this point.
Well,
man.
I mean, look at the standings now. This is going to be the next point that I bring up is that, even leading up to a couple days ago when this injury was announced, they've started to slide down the standings a bit now. So right now, the Celtics still have a 4.5 game lead in first place over the Bucks. And now the 3 seed is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I know everyone's been talking about the Knicks in their hot stretch, but the Cavs have been equally as hot, if not hotter, and they just got back Darius Garland and Evan Mobley earlier this week. So they're on the way up. The Knicks we've talked about multiple times in this podcast in the last few weeks with OG and Anunoby. They're on the way up. The Sixers have fallen all the way down to 5th now. And granted, 2 through 5, there's a little bit of a cushion before you get to that group of 6, 7, 8, which are all kind of clustered together as well. But, now with the Embiid news, like it just
they're going to be a playing team.
It feels likely that there's a run from either the Magic, Pacers, or Heat, and then the decline of the 76ers, that there's a good chance they fall into the play-in, and then either, 2 out of these 3, Magic, Pacers, Heat jump up into that 5-6 spot, and we'll see what that looks like. But this is kind of crazy because now you look at it from a Celtics perspective, and even if Embiid's coming back, it's one thing appears to be clear. It's not going to be 100% Embiid. And we've played not 100% Embiid 3 different times in the postseason. It's been the same result every single time. Celtics.
Yeah.
So now as a Celtics fan, regardless of what Philly does the next couple of days at the trade deadline, I'm feeling good in a kind of shitty way that they're not really much of a worry anymore when I think about going to the finals. And so now I'm kind of shifting my attention to, do the Bucks have a way to make a move the next couple of days? I don't think they do. Maybe they pull something. I know Mark Stein reported that they're still being very aggressive, even with their limited assets. What that means, no idea. We'll find out in a couple of days if it means anything. Doc Rivers got his first win the other night. And then you got the Cavs and Knicks. And I think those are the 2 teams that I'm now looking at. And we know the Heat. I don't want to talk about the Heat. We know the Heat are back there hanging around, just, doing whatever the fuck they're doing, waiting to come out in the middle of nowhere and be like, oh, yeah, forgot about us. We know you're there. We know you're there. Cavs and Knicks are now the 2 teams I'm looking at, and it's like, all right, so it's Bucks who are a little bit dysfunctional, obviously firing your head coach midseason, not great when you're in second place. Something's not right there. And now you got the Cavs and Knicks who are 2 teams that are on the come up, and all of a sudden, that's the group that I'm looking at as like Bucks, Cavs, Knicks. These are the Celtics' strongest competitors now if Philly's out of the picture.
I mean, you know me, man. I'm really concerned about what the Knicks are doing in New York. I think that they're a bad matchup for the Celtics. I've talked about that at length on the pod, so I'm not going to belabor that point. But I think the Sixers are definitely going to end up in the play-in, and if you end up in the play-in, you could very easily end up out of the playoffs. And if Embiid's not back for the play-in, if they end up in the play-in and the season just doesn't look great, there's probably no reason to rush him back.
They probably shut him down. Yeah,
they probably just shut him down. So, if the team shows that they have a little bit more kind of gusto without him, if there's like Ewing theory stuff going on with them, maybe.
Maxey
But
just takes off, goes to an even higher level than he's been at this
but
year.
so much of Maxey's success is because of the 2-man game with Embiid. So it's going to be really interesting.
Although he did drop 51 the other night.
Yeah, he did. Who was that against again?
I think it was against Houston, I believe, but I can double check that.
That's a decent defense there that they got. But I mean, yeah, dude can definitely go crazy. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Sixers. If I had to make a bet on it, I think they end up in the play-in and Embiid doesn't come back this season. But maybe there's like less pressure. Maybe this is what Embiid needs, coming back from the playoffs, and he can just be like, oh, like I wasn't supposed to be back. I'm here. Let's see what's up, and then he's able to kind of get some of the pressure of the playoffs off of him going in because they got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But looking at
real quick correction, that was versus the Jazz, not the
Rockets. That's an easy team to score 50 against. But looking at the Western Conference is another interesting thing right now. The Clippers, I think, beat the Heat tonight, but the Thunder and T-Wolves, two teams that I still think are probably bad matchups for the Celtics should they make it to the finals. Just looking out west, is there anybody right now, we're doing our like check-in here, that you're looking at that has kind of changed your mind about their prospects in the West and also how we potentially match up with them in the finals?
For me, it's the Clippers, no doubt. Like, I mean, I think the Nuggets are the Nuggets. I said this the other day when we were in the playback room. We had S jump in, who does a lot of Raptors coverage, but a lot of NBA coverage as well. I've been on the show multiple times. I said for me, if everyone just put on 2K simulation, everybody's healthy, it's Celtics and Nuggets are a toss-up series. I have no idea who would win that series. I wouldn't say that I would lean one way or the other, and I might even say, like, if I was trying to be not fully biased, lean towards the Nuggets just because it's based on their experience, and Jokic is, I don't know how you solve Jokic, right? So that would be kind of the X factors there. Other than that, every other single team, I would pick the Celtics to win. Will they? Maybe not. Maybe they will. But I would pick them to win that series against every other team. I think for me, the team that's coming on is the Clippers. And they just came into the Celtics building, granted, without Porzingis, and beat the shit out of us, right? Yeah. They put it on us.
Yeah.
And so now when you add, and this is what I've always said, and why I think it's so fascinating if it does end up somehow Celtics Clippers, is that I was hoping the Clippers were going to give us the blueprint of how to build around the Jays. And that never really happened because we never really got healthy Kawhi and PG long enough to say, hey, if you have two dynamic, two-way wings that can do, because it's a very interesting comp to think about the four of them going head-to-head over 7 games because they do so much of the same things on both sides of the ball. That's a fascinating chess match to think about. But we've never seen them healthy enough for an extended period of time to say, hey, as Celtics fans, look at what they just did out west with these two similar type players. Here's what we got to put around them. And we've had to kind of figure it out on our own. Of course, we've been building with talent in different ways. And this is the Marcus Smart trade is, all right, we haven't tried it with a guy like Porzingis, so let's try it with him. And then we've, opened up with Derek White, Drew Holiday and such. And so, I think the Clippers are just a really tough matchup if they're fully healthy. When you add in that they added James Harden, who has now kind of figured out what his role is and how to get them.
Yeah, he looks good.
I mean, he gets them a lot easier buckets than what they were getting before, where it's a lot of just Kawhi and PG just out-talenting people offensively. Now you add in, James Harden kind of setting them up and being okay, for at least for now, who knows? But for now, he's okay with like the reduced role that he's in. And that's a damn good player in a reduced role, like for whatever you think about James Harden. So I think the Clippers are the team for me that, other than the Nuggets, I look to. I think the T-Wolves are too immature and the Thunder too young. I think they're more mature than the Timberwolves. But
any belief in the Suns?
Not really.
Have we played the Suns this year?
We have not yet. At least I don't believe so. Let me pull up the schedule here. I don't believe we played them yet. I know we play them coming up in March. We have at least
that'll
one
be a fun game to watch.
Oh,
you know what I was thinking?
Two games in March against the Suns.
Okay, that'll be fun to see. I think that'll be a good measuring stick for them going up against us. But with Embiid, dude, if he's going to be out, like he probably won't be able to play in the Olympics. And I know Team USA was really counting on him to hold down the front court against.
I didn't even think about that part as well. Yeah, he's probably out. So now you're looking at, I don't know, Bam's probably back again. Maybe Chet gets the AD. AD is likely for it, but yeah, so that's another wrinkle that I hadn't thought about. But where are you at with the Suns? Do you think the Suns are a real threat? I just don't think they have enough defense, so I'm not like super.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't watched like a ton of them. I think I've only seen maybe like 3 full games, and I tune in every once in a while when it looks like they're in a good game. But to your point, like all the good games are it's like 135 to 130,
Yeah.
So they're not really stopping anybody. That's got to be the biggest concern if you're a Suns fan is like at the end of the day, can we get stops? I think the West is really interesting just because of the different matchups. And I think there are a lot of teams that aren't good matchups for like each other. Like I think the Nuggets can pretty much beat anybody except for the T-Wolves. I think the T-Wolves is the one team that the Nuggets are going to want to try to avoid. I just think they have so much size that they can throw at the Nuggets. I think that's the one team that could give them an issue. I don't think anybody else really can give the Nuggets an issue. I think Jokic is the cheat code out west. But when you look at like the Thunder, if the Thunder go up against the Suns, I'm picking the Suns, I think, in that series. I think that there's not enough on the Thunder to exploit the weaknesses of the Phoenix Suns. They don't have the guys that can bruise them and pound them inside. In this, it's Chet versus KD at the end of the day for
you're
skinny
going KD
7-footers.
right now. No, I love Chet, but you're going KD right
now. Exactly. And then the Clippers, I think they could give the Nuggets some issues, but I don't think they have anybody really to guard Jokic. Maybe.
So this is what I was gonna say. This is what I would think would be fascinating in that series is do we see Kawhi on Jokic?
They've tried that in the past and it hasn't really worked.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I mean, playoff Kawhi tends to be a different beast, but you're right. Jokic is the cheat code, so I don't know what you do there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Like I've seen the Clippers go to Kawhi on Jokic and it doesn't work. And it's like really surprising because you just expect Kawhi to be able to guard anybody. It's just a different level of physicality and size that even Kawhi, with one of the most strongest, most physical dudes, just can't really hang with. And Jokic, he's so smart. He's not going to expose the ball. He's not going to get stripped. He's just so goddamn good. And that I think, other teams, the Mavs, I don't really believe in. The Pelicans are interesting. Zion looks like he's getting in good shape. I think they're a bad matchup, in a 1-8 with the Thunder. I think they're a bad matchup for the Thunder as well.
I think there's only three teams I really think can actually come out of the West, and it's really 2, and one's kind of like an asterisk just because like I'm not going to tell you LeBron can't find a way. Like I do not believe in the Lakers one iota, but if LeBron just puts his mind to it and they make a move or they're or even if they're just healthy, and I don't know, just LeBron's LeBron. I don't got to explain that anymore than what it is.
3.5 out of the 6 seed right now.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't look good. Like I said, I don't believe in them, but I really think it's Clippers, Nuggets, and I would begrudge.
Well, you know what's interesting? If the Clippers get the 1 seed and the Lakers get the 8 seed, the Lakers actually play the Clippers pretty well. So that would be a really interesting 1-8 matchup.
Yeah, I think nobody leaves LA. Battle of LA in the first round.
I think this got to deal with the traffic. I guess like in the East, there's not too many super interesting first round matchups with the Sixers kind of going down. Like I don't think the Magic are probably going to beat anybody. Maybe, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe
it's all about just right in the East. Where do the Heat fall? They're the matchup that it's like. I mean, there's a chance that we play them in the first round.
The Jonathan Isaac buzz is pretty funny to see. He's a heck of a defender, and I think with the Magic, I don't want to see the Magic in the first round just because of their size. And Jonathan Isaac going against Tatum for half the game is something I really don't want to have to deal with. I don't think 7 games.
Other than Philly, now that they're likely without Embiid, I don't think there's an easy series in the East, and I don't believe that the Bulls, Hawks, Nets, Raptors, or whoever's going to be in the back end of that plan. I don't think there's another scenario where they're coming up to steal one of those 8 seeds. I mean, it's a 1-game scenario, so it could happen, but I think those top 8 are pretty legit in the East, 8 through 1, and minus Philly without Embiid. There's not a single desirable series in there. Indiana's played us super tough all season. I don't want to see Nesmith. Now you get Siakam and, Halliburton. Like, even if I feel like, there's, like I said, I would pick the Celtics to win every single series in the East. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy and doesn't mean they will, because I think each of those teams have a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and like the Knicks are going to grind you out. The Cavs have Donovan Mitchell, who's one of the best playoff players out there, and they got a lot of size. The
Cavs and Knicks both 9-1 their last 10.
Yeah, they're on fire. Those two teams are. That's why I'm curious. So this is where I want to end the podcast here. So coming up on this week on Thursday at, I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern, is the trade deadline. So this to me is where I don't think the Celtics are going to do much. I know like there's the Caruso dream. I would be baffled if the Celtics put in the assets required to go get that. I think the Celtics do either nothing or it's something falls into their lap for a second round pick or the TPE or whatever. But either way, I don't think it's going to be anything that's monumental that shakes up the main core of what they have. And so I'm really looking on, come Thursday or come, the days leading up to the trade deadline this week. What do the Cavs do? What do the Knicks do? Do the Bucks have a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat? Like what happens to these other teams? The Heat, what do the Heat do? Do the Heat have another move that we don't see coming? Do they put Tyler Hero and go do something? Zach LaVine's no longer an option. Not that I was necessarily worried about Zach LaVine, but he's now off the table with his foot injury and getting surgery again. Good luck to the Bulls moving that in the offseason. But that's really what I'm looking for. Is there any particular player or team that you're looking at this week? I mean, I'm assuming it's the Knicks that you're looking at as a team that if they made one more move would really frighten you. But is there anything that you've seen in the rumor mill or that you're thinking maybe is on the down low that could shake it up?
Not really, man. I'm kind of in that like wait and see, and then I'll react on Thursday. I still think the Warriors are the team that could sell. And if the Warriors end up selling, then who knows where they could end up. But they have a lot of interesting pieces. And then Marcus, we started the pod talking about Marcus, and there was that rumor that I think the Lakers and Bucks were trying to get Marcus, and they got shut down. But that's a guy that I threw out there, as someone, if someone wants to get really frisky, if the Bucks were able to get Marcus Smart, I think the Sixers are probably out of the loop with that now. But I think if the Bucks got Marcus, that'd be really interesting.
I think the Grizzlies have a pretty solid reputation as a front office. I think it would actually be unless they were like it was some insane offer. I think it'd be pretty stupid for them to move Marcus given his contract and at least a little bit of a sample size that you saw with your team fully healthy and knowing that you're going to have a top 5 pick maybe this year.
I keep thinking the Thunder. So like maybe the Thunder go get Marcus.
I mean, the Thunder are the wild card because if they really want someone, they can go do it, right? Like they do have like. You really want to be blown away? All right, man. We got 18 first-round picks.
Right.
Like, how many we got to take?
Got Marcus and Caruso.
Right. They got the Bertowns contract. They're keeping it there for. So they've got the ammunition to make it work. But we'll see. I'm sure we'll do something for the trade deadline. Maybe me and Adam will hop on for a little bit around that time. I think it's about 3 p.m. Eastern is when that trade deadline hits. So I'm sure we'll have some coverage leading up to that. Rest of the week here for the Celtics just to get you set. Wednesday, the Celtics have 2 days off coming up here. Monday, Tuesday is our off days for the Celtics. Wednesday, home to Atlanta. Friday, home against Washington to wrap up their 8-game homestand here. And then they're back in Miami, which they were just in Miami, it feels like, but back in Miami on Super Bowl Sunday. I also feel like the Celtics always play on Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know if that's but it feels like that's been a thing over the last couple of years. But at Miami to start your Super Bowl Sunday, that is a 2 p.m. Eastern tip. So we'll have a few more podcasts. As I mentioned, be on the lookout. Adam's going to be doing some preview podcasts. So look for that on Wednesday before the Hawks game. We'll have another podcast in the mix. And then, of course, the trade deadline is on Thursday. So whether the Celtics are active or if any of those teams that are in contention with the Celtics in the East are active, we will have some form of reaction. When and where? I don't know. You got to follow us. Find out.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Join the memberships. We'll get you all set up. Greg, as we wrap this up here, any final thoughts before we send the crowd out?
Love and trust. Peace, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door. You cut me to my core, baby.
What can I say? You got me on the floor, you know I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but